We'll start with the second cascade called phosphatidyl inositol bisphosphate cascade. Okay, this is the cascade which is being utilized by hormones which utilize this cascade are hormones utilizing this cascade. What are those hormones? We'll just take 2-3 examples. One is called as angiotensin. Then second is called as antidiuretic hormone, ADH, antidiuretic hormone. The third one is called as gonadotropin releasing hormone. The fourth one is thyroid releasing hormone. So these are some of the hormones which utilize this particular cascade. Okay, so please understand each one of these hormones. The list may be more, but you can remember some 2-3 names. Each of these hormones, they will have specific receptors on the cell surface. So this is lipid bilayer, and then they will be having each one will be having a specific receptor. Each hormone will have a specific receptor, right? So once it binds over there, then it will cause the synthesis of a secondary messenger. What is the secondary messenger? That we'll understand. What are the effects which are mediated by this particular cascade? The 3 major effects which are mediated by this particular cascade are glycogenolysis in liver. Glycogenolysis means breakdown of glycogen in liver. Your liver is a storage space for glycogen. You can store something like 100 grams of glycogen in the liver. So when in need, this glycogen is hydrolyzed. It is converted into its monomer, that is glucose, and this sugar, this glucose, is mobilized into the blood. So this glycogenolysis in liver is an effect which is mediated by this phosphatidyl inositol bisphosphate cascade. Second one is release of histamine. By mast cell. Okay, this is the second effect which is mediated by, and the third and the most important probably of this particular pathway is smooth muscle contraction. Smooth muscle contraction is also mediated by this particular cascade. Let us see what this cascade generates. So let's say you have a particular hormone of the 4 hormones that we discussed, angiotensin or ADH, antidiuretic hormone, or gonadotropin releasing hormone, or so it will combine with a cell surface receptor. Okay, so what does it do? It converts an enzyme, phospholipase C, which is inactive, to its active form. Phospholipase C active. Okay, how it is getting converted to its active form? Please remember, a particular hormone will be binding to a specific receptors on the cell surface. The way we have seen in case of cyclic AMP, in the very same way, this hormone will bind to a cell surface receptor and then will activate an adjacent membrane-bound enzyme phospholipase C, which is inactive in presence of hormone at a specific cell surface receptor. It will be converted to its active form. And this active phospholipase C in turn converts phosphatidyl inositol 4,5 bisphosphate. It gets converted to two products in presence of active phospholipase C. It generates inositol 1,4,5 triphosphate. Triphosphate. Okay, it is in short, it is called as IP3. Inositol 1,4,5 triphosphate is called as IP3, and the other product that is being generated, being synthesized is diacyl glycerol, which in short is called as DAG. Okay, so you can see it is also a cascade that is getting created, right? These two are secondary messengers. Inositol 1,4,5 triphosphate. What does it do? It mediates its action by opening calcium channels. Okay, whereas diacylglycerol, it works by activating an enzyme called protein kinase C. Protein kinase C. Okay, so please understand, it will be like this. So you have, let's say, this is the lipid bilayer. Then in the lipid bilayer, let's say you have a particular receptor, and then this hormone comes and binds. This is the hormone which is bound to its specific receptor. One of those hormones which will be activating this particular cascade. And next door, you have a phospholipase C, a membrane-bound enzyme. This phospholipase C will get activated by the binding of hormone to its specific receptor. And this activated phospholipase C in turn will convert this PIP2, this is called as PIP2 in short, PIP2 into IP3 and diacylglycerol. So PIP2 will be converted to these two products, IP3 and diacylglycerol. And IP3 will work by opening calcium channels, whereas diacylglycerol will work by activating an enzyme called protein kinase C. This enzyme is different than the protein kinase A that we discussed in the earlier lecture. Right? Let us understand IP3 first. Inositol 1,4,5 triphosphate, in short it is called as IP3. What does it do? It mediates action. Its action is mediated by opening of calcium channel. Calcium channels which are located on the membrane, plasma membrane or intracellular membrane. Where can you have calcium channels located within the cell? Calcium channels are very richly found, are very richly present in the membranes of the endoplasmic reticulum, particularly in muscle cells, where endoplasmic reticulum is referred to as sarcoplasmic reticulum. So that sarcoplasmic reticular membrane, it's a very rich source of calcium channel. So intracellular membranes. Okay. So these calcium channels are IP3 gated. So you understand what is meant by gated channels. So these channels are IP3 gated. For opening, they will require binding of minimum 3 molecules of IP3. So when IP3 is generated in response to a hormone binding to a specific receptor, this IP3 will go and bind to those IP3 gated channel, which is nothing but a membrane spanning protein. It's a large protein. IP3 gated channel, calcium channel in sarcoplasmic reticulum is more than 300 kilodalton protein. Okay, and it has got several transmembrane helices. So IP3 will go and bind over there and will open calcium channels. This opening of calcium channel will lead to what? Opening of calcium channel will lead to influx of calcium ion in the cytoplasm from the intracellular stores, that is sarcoplasmic reticular lumen, which is a good store of calcium ions, or from outside the cell. Okay, there is a gradient of calcium. So if channels are there in the plasma membrane, then if they are opened, then calcium from outside will move within the cell. So intracellular level of calcium will rise. Will rise. Will rise means normally it is about 100 nanomolar. So as a result of opening of these channels, it will rise to 500 nanomolar. And this rise, abrupt rise in the level of calcium, leads to muscle contraction. It's a trigger for contraction of muscles. Okay, so as I've been telling you all along that, you know, this system will get activated. You know, IP3 will be formed. It will cause an increase in the calcium ion within the cytoplasm from say 100 nanomolar to 500 nanomolar, leading to contraction of muscle. But this will not remain there forever. So this IP3 is a short-lived molecule. It's a short-lived molecule. Okay, phosphatase will act on them. So IP3 will get converted to IP2, will convert it to IP, and then will convert it to inositol. By whom? By phosphatases. Or it can also be phosphorylated. IP3 can be converted to IP4. Phosphatases. So it is only a short-lived molecule. Transiently, for a few seconds, it will be there. It will cause the opening of the channels. Calcium will get into the cytoplasm, will cause contraction of muscle. And after a few seconds, this IP3 will be either hydrolyzed successively to inositol, IP3 to inositol bisphosphate, then inositol phosphate, and then finally inositol in presence of phosphatases. Or it can also be phosphorylated to give inositol 1,3,4,5 tetraphosphate, which is called as IP4, right? So please understand that anything which gets activated has to come back to the ground state. IP3 is generated, it will exert its effect, whatever it has to. For example, IP3 causes opening of calcium channels, IP3 gated channels in the plasma membrane as well as in the intracellular membranes, particularly the membrane of the endoplasmic reticulum in the muscle cells, sarcoplasmic reticulum we call it as, right? Now, secondary messenger which is generated by this PIP2 cascade is called as diacylglycerol. In short, it is called as DAG. Diacylglycerol. Diacylglycerol works by activating an enzyme called protein kinase C. Diacylglycerol works by activating an enzyme called protein kinase C, right? So this protein kinase C, it's a multifunctional kinase. Multifunctional kinase. It has a molecular weight of approximately 80 kilodalton. It has got two distinct domains, a regulatory domain and a catalytic domain. Regulatory domain is situated towards the N terminus, whereas catalytic domain is at the C terminus. So this regulatory domain is the binding site for diacylglycerol. Diacylglycerol will go and bind to this regulatory domain and will activate the catalytic domain by what you can say, inducing a proteolytic cleavage. So regulatory domain will be separated from catalytic domain, and a separated catalytic domain will be catalytically active, right? So it's a multifunctional kinase. What does it mean? It means that it is capable of phosphorylating a large number of different target proteins. Therefore, it is called as multifunctional protein kinase. Now, will diacylglycerol, once generated, will remain there forever? And again, the answer is no. Diacylglycerol, it is hydrolyzed to its constituent glycerol and acyl moieties, acyl groups, right? So as soon as it is hydrolyzed to its constituents, glycerol and acyl groups, it will no longer be active. That means activation of protein kinase C will stop. Protein kinase C will no longer be active, and whatever effects protein kinase C generates, phosphorylation of different kinds of target proteins, that will also stop, and the effect of the hormone will stop. All right. So this is what is called as PIP2 cascade. So we have studied two different cascades so far. We have studied two different cascades. One is adenylate cyclase cascade, and the second one is called as PIP2 cascade. You must remember the secondary messenger generated by this is cyclic AMP, and the secondary messenger generated by this is IP3 and DAG. Hormones which utilize cyclic AMP as secondary messenger, you must remember, and hormones which utilize PIP2 cascade or IP3 and diacylglycerol secondary messenger, that you must remember. Cyclic AMP function by activating an enzyme called pKa. IP3 functions by opening of calcium channels, whereas diacylglycerol functions by activating an enzyme called pKc. All right, so this is the summary of what we discussed in the last two lectures, right? So I think we'll have to stop here.